wọ̀nyí kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
A ní wọ́n kéré o, wọ́n kéré o, wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa, àwọn ọmọdé wọ̀nyí kéré sí. A ní wọ́n kéré o, wọ́n kéré o, wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa, àwọn ọmọdé wọ̀nyí kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be that. I'm watching. Hey, Osinachi, I'm no kwa, Osinachi. Man, Osinachi, I'm watching. Hey, Osinachi, mama, Osinachi.
kọrin.
Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n yí kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
A ní wọ́n kéré o, wọ́n kéré o, wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Àwọn ọmọdé wọ̀nyí kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be that. I walk daily, Osinachi, Namnukwa, Osinachi, one name, Osinachi, Awachi, daily, Osinachi, Mama, Osinachi.
No, no creo que sea esto.
Yeah. You're all welcome to this panel. Please feel free to start. The panel chair is here, so we can start. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Let's see. Just want to make sure we can all see each other. Okay. All right, so welcome everyone to our panel. Oh. Let's see. So just make sure you are on mute until it's your time to speak. So today we have a wonderful panel on urban politics, governance, and economy. My name is Vivian Liu, and I am an assistant professor of anthropology at Fordham University in the United States. And this is I don't know which Lagos Studies Association meeting. I think it's probably I've been here since it started, basically. So I'm very happy and honored to be chairing the panel today. We have 4 speakers. Initially, we had 5, but one couldn't make it today. So in the order of the program, we have Olusegun Edo from Afe Babalola University. And I will introduce all of you in order at the beginning, just so we know who each other are. So Dr. Olusegun Oladele Ido is a distinguished lecturer at the Department of Intelligence and Security Studies, College of Social and Management Sciences at Afe Babalola University in Ado-Ekiti, Nigeria. He holds a master's and PhD degree in Peace and Security Studies. He's enthusiastic about research and breaking new frontiers for knowledge in security studies, a dedicated, detailed, and reliable researcher with private experience in private security, community policing, and peace education. Our second speaker today will be Bright Joseph Njoku, who is a PhD student at the University of Lagos. His research interests focus on social history, international relations, security, and sports studies. Our third speaker today is Latunde Olaniyi, who holds a master's in political science, specializing in international relations from the University of Ibadan. His research focuses on security, foreign policy, and incursion of new media in the teaching, practice, and research of these themes. He's with the Nigerian Army College in Ilorin, Nigeria. And then lastly, we will hear from Nicole Wilson, who is a PhD candidate in political science at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the United States, studying comparative politics and quantitative methods. She has been doing research in Lagos since 2016. So without much further ado, why don't we all just get started with our first paper. And I hope this is a chance, we can share our work, speak for about 12 to 15 minutes, and then leave the remaining time to ask a question and answer. I'm just curious, do any of you know each other from before, or have you been on panel together before with each other? Yes, no? No? Okay. So then we can really use this time as a chance to get to know each other's work. So why don't we start with Dr. Olusegun Idowu, who will be delivering a paper called Community Policing, Omotekun and Crime Prevention in Southwestern Nigeria.
Temi.
Right.
Temi.
Oh, let's see, make sure you are muted until your paper. Okay, go ahead. Welcome.
Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Idowu Olusegun Oladele from Federal University, Nigeria. Hope you are hearing me, Mr. Amma.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I'm presenting a topic, community policing, Amotekun and crime prevention in Southwestern Nigeria. I'm on transit. I got hooked up on the way, and I just had to park somewhere around safe to bring up my laptop so that I can connect. I'm very happy to be in your midst this evening. The paper I'm presenting is a work in progress, and I look forward to a very good time with you and a good feedback, constructive criticism on my paper. I'd like to share the screen for the presentation. Share screen. I hope I'm on. Yes. The importance of security in any society, any community cannot be overemphasized. And as such, there is no meaningful development that can spring up in an atmosphere of fear, uncertainty, and insecurity. As such, in the recent time in Southwest Nigeria, there has been a surge of insecurity, ranging from banditry, kidnapping, and all sorts of crime within the Southwestern region. Now, there is no society that would want to give room for fear. The problem of insecurity boils down to a lot of people have fingered the Nigerian police force or the public security force not doing what they are supposed to do, or probably they are overwhelmed with their job. We have there is a particular research that talks about less than 500,000 Nigerian police force securing over 200 million Nigerians. And I saw it seems they are overwhelmed. Probably that's why we have a pocket of crime all around unattended to. In view of this, the 6 southern governors of Ekiti, Ondo, Oyo, Lagos, Ogun State, Osun came together to find the means of probably assisting the public security forces in curbing insecurity within their region. Since it seems the public security agencies are overwhelmed with all of this problem. On the 9th January 2020, these 6 governors came together to enact and bring to bear Amotekun, which is Western Nigerian Security Network, codename Amotekun, with its headquarters in Oyo State. The birth of Amotekun on the 9th January by the 6 Western governors of Ekiti, Ondo, Ogun, Oyo, and Lagos State was meant to complement public security force within their region. Community policing, such as Amotekun, is a conscious and proactive effort of the Southwestern Governor of Nigeria to state back and complement the police effort in safeguarding lives and property. My statement of the problem: there is a growing number of evidence showing that shortfall in safety and security and justice contributes to increased rate of poverty and underdevelopment in developing countries. Safety and security propel stable income, consistent housing, clothing, and food supply as part of the predictability of daily life protection from crime and psychological security. Insecurity affects all, both poor and the rich, whether through violence, crime, or conflict. As it has always been said that no meaningful development can be achieved under the atmosphere of fear, uncertainty, and insecurity. Amotekun Security Initiative was born out of ineffectiveness of the police force and other public security force to guarantee safety. Consequently, due to this inadequate and poorly trained officers, corrupt officers, and the emergence of Fulani herdsmen and killings, other problems identified are large ungoverned space. You agree with me? We have a number of forests around southwestern Nigeria, where serves as havens for criminals, and in most recently the bandits and Fulani X-men, who some of them are into kidnapping and all the likes. All of these problems were put into perspective, and the southwestern governor deemed fit to put together, because most of them sees crime, or just as has been rightly said, crime is local, crime is within, and as such, you need a kind of a platform or a kind of a group within the community that can tackle crime within. As a response to this debilitating state of security in Nigeria, in the country, citizens, community, and even governments have resorted to formal and informal security providers, such as community-based security, private security companies, regional policing initiatives for themselves. We have the likes of Bakassi Boys, Odua People's Congress, and recently Amotekun in Southwest. These bodies were established to improve the safety and security condition of areas within their jurisdiction. And that is the main word there, within their locality. The southwestern states in Nigeria have openly certified Amotekun as part of their campaign against crime. Hence, this research work is posed to evaluate the effectiveness of community policing, Amotekun, and crime prevention in southwest Nigeria. The study is predicated upon the following research question: how effective is Amotekun in securing lives and prevention of crime in southwestern Nigeria? To what extent does Amotekun complement public police efforts in combating crime? How do people and police support Amotekun security outfits? What are the challenges faced by this outfit? The main objective is as identified, and the specific objectives are as follow. The specific objective of the study includes to interrogate the reasons for establishment of Amotekun security network in southwestern Nigeria. Objective 2, examine the effectiveness of Amotekun in securing lives and prevention of crime in southwestern Nigeria. Investigate the extent Amotekun complement public security efforts in combating crime in southwestern Nigeria. To examine the relationship between the people's perspective and public security support for Amotekun security outfits in southwest Nigeria. Last but not the least, investigate the challenges facing Amotekun. And these are some pictorial presentation of Amotekun, their commandants, and some of the successes they've recorded. The scope of the study, the research focuses on community policing, Amotekun, and crime prevention in southwestern Nigeria. Specifically, the research will be carried out within the southwestern state of Ekiti, Oyo, and Lagos states in Nigeria. The 3 selected states that are most bedeviled with security challenges were the 3 selected states. The theoretical underpinning for this study, the study will adopt Dennis P. Rosenberg partnership theory of crime prevention. The theory noted that government, the criminal justice system, cannot by itself solve the complex problem of crime and disorder in our society. The theory advocates that resources from outside the system are needed, as well as new ways of thinking about diverse problems from the inside. To achieve this, the theory advocated for the creation of a partnership or delegation of authority to a group of organizations, i.e., these are regional security outfit like Amotekun, Vigilante Group, and Neighborhood Watch. That's it's in Lagos. That can bring distinctive but complementary skill, effort, and resources to the table, and can produce coordinated and targeted response to public safety and security problem. I have a number of literature review, but then I'm going to skip that and move to the research method. The study is a survey research. It shall make use of both primary and secondary sources of data collection. The primary data are that of key informant interview and questionnaires, while the secondary data, on the other hand, will be drawn on content analysis of academic literature, publications on community policing and private security, locally and globally, news, media, experiences from members of Amotekun Operative, a public security body, and official record from government agencies. The study area, as said earlier on, the study area is supposed to be the 6 western states, but purposively, the study will be centered on Ekiti, Oyo, and Lagos State. The choice of this state is associated to the crime prevalence rate in the region and the activity of Amotekun within the 3 states. Population for the study. All adults within 18 years and above, male and female, literate and non-literate. The interview and questionnaire shall be administered on 4 categories of persons. And these are, first, will be the Amotekun officers, who are the primary target of the study. The second will be the citizens, who are the victim of insecurity and also the direct beneficiaries of Amotekun operation. The third will be the public security officers, and the fourth, the last but not the least, that will be scholars and opinion leader. The sampling techniques, like I said, we looked at the population of Ekiti, Oyo, and Lagos states, and through the study will adopt 3 methods of sampling techniques in the selection of respondents for the study. These include multi-stage sampling techniques, proportional stratified sampling techniques, purposive, and simple random sampling. This sample techniques was used to select the location and respondents for the study. The multi-stage sampling techniques was used at the various stages to achieve the respondent within Ekiti, Oyo, and Lagos State. We have this population where we looked at Ekiti State population vis-a-vis 800 respondents that was cited upon, which is, so we'll be having like 111 stratum size representing 14% of the total sampling, or your state around 33%, while that of Lagos State 53%. You agree with me that Lagos State is larger than the other two states. The study also put into consideration ethical adherence. The study adherent and comply with ethical standards relating to research, such as issues as informed consent, objectivity, privacy of the respondents, and the likes. At this stage, I've concluded that of questionnaire and some interviews with the commandant of Amotekun in Ekiti State, being my domain. That of Oyo and Lagos State is underway, and as such, I won't be able to go beyond this level, so that at least when I gathered other results from respondents, the analysis can then take place. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you so much for that presentation, and I look forward to the question and answers where, even though you haven't finished your research, we can still hear some of your findings. So our next panelist is Bright Joseph Njoku, who's a PhD student at the University of Lagos, who will be presenting the paper From Problem to Solution, the role of Fadei Mushi and Ojuelegba area boys in Lagos, COVID-19 lockdown insecurity. Please join me in welcoming Bright Njoku. Oh, and also if you could mute yourself once you finish, thank you.
Kindly unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
We're having trouble hearing you, sorry. Maybe with the headphone. think it's still not working. Is it possible to take the headphones out and then put them back in? Or without the headphones? So maybe what we can do is just switch around the order of the papers. So we can ask the next person to go and we'll wait for the audio to work out. So our next speaker just came on screen, Latunde Isaac Olani, who will be presenting a paper called Parity of Safe Haven, Gated Neighborhoods in Public Spaces. Welcome.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whichever one applies to you. I'm Latunde Olani. I'm with Nigerian Army College in Ilorin, Nigeria here. I'll be presenting on the paper titled Parody of Safe Urban. Sorry, please, I may not be able to share my screen. Parody of a safe urban, gated neighborhoods and public spaces in Nigeria. I'll be looking at the introduction, the method, look at the contents spread across 3 major parts, and that is from security to insecurity. This next one is governance of gated neighborhood. And the last strand of it is bridging the security gap, then the conclusion. So by way of introduction, the phenomenon of security is very germane for every state, and it is known to be the fundamental essence of the state. States have the principal role or function of protecting the lives and property of the citizens, and as a matter of fact, every individual within the state. So security of lives and property is precursory to any meaningful development that has been established in previous studies. Even the Constitution of Nigeria, Federal Republic, 1999, 2011 amended, provides for this or establishes this. Nigeria's security architecture, unfortunately, is overwhelmed, like the first speaker, the first presenter established in his work. The security architecture is confronted and being challenged by myriads of security threats, and this is actually affecting national development. This is affecting even the productivity of individuals. It's affecting the productivity of individuals and the development of the nation. So recurrent insecurity issues that Nigeria is familiar with, or Nigerians even all around are familiar with, ranges from kidnapping to farmer herders crisis, cattle rustling, banditry, Boko Haram insurgents, secessionist unrest, and the likes of them. The state is making efforts at improving national security, at ensuring that there is stability and ensuring equilibrium within the security architecture of the country. However, these efforts, we can say, have not been enough, are actually less than expected, so to speak, because of the various insecurity issues we have mentioned earlier. So these had propelled individuals, both rich and poor within the state, to actively search for security or secure environments for their lives, for the safety of their livelihood, and the safety of their estate. So this has brought about security, private security initiatives such as gated neighborhoods. Gated neighborhood has emerged as one of the security measures that have been adopted in recent times. Albeit the poor also, or let me say, the average Nigerians also seek their own security provisions through neighborhood watch, through vigilante activities and all that. However, this work is concerned with the gated neighborhood. And gated neighborhood refers to communities that have been developed or that are created even out of existing residential communities. We enter almost any community these days, you see gates where either two are not gates. You see gates that are being mounted at the entry, the road into communities, into existing communities that were either to without. And in current age, most people, especially those that can afford, are even going into investing in estates, real estates that have this security architecture that we can call gated neighborhood, with the characteristics of secured gates, restricted movement into the neighborhood, police, or let me say, with securities at the gates, and also at most times perimeter fence. All these are pointing to the fact that citizens are concerned with their own security, and this is supposed to create succor or create haven for Nigerians. However, this safe haven is a parody, because there are, like my work here has established, and the work of Professor Olusegun has rightly reviewed, that there are vast ungoverned spaces all around. So within the larger community or larger neighborhood of Nigeria, you have gated neighborhoods within it that are supposed to be what? Havens of safety. But it is a parody, it's a paradox, because there is no safety indeed. If people can only be safe within their own house, within their own immediate communities, what happens within their, when they move out of their community, what happens when they move out of their house into malls, into markets, into this, when they travel highways, when they travel all this. So this is the argument of this paper. This is the position of this paper. And for the material method, this work relies on quality method. The sources of data are primarily secondary, looking at existing works, policy documents, and maps. The method of analysis is purely phenomenological and content analysis. So I move from security to insecurity. I have established earlier that security is the major essence of the state, and it is the rational choice of any human person. And the assurance of security, the feeling of security itself is alone to keep people productive, within the nation. And when this happens, there can be an aggregate of development. Now, security is, before now, being conceptualized from a state-centric perspective, purely realist perspective, although there are now a number of perspectives to security, which is now enlarged and encompassing looking at human security, looking at environmental security, and the likes. But majorly, we are looking at the security of lives and property, which is state-centric from the realist approach. Albeit, the solutions to this problem of state-centric perspective cannot be purely provided using state-centric approach. So we look at how we can use an encompassing approach, that is a realist approach, a more encompassing approach. And one of these initiatives has been the input of private individuals, which brought about gated neighborhood. So the security architecture in Nigeria, the police is at the forefront. This is established in the Nigeria defense policy. The civil forces from Nigerian Police Force, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, Department of State Security Services, and also in recent times, the elements of Armed Forces of Nigeria, which holds the monopoly of lethal force. However, it was the overwhelming state of internal security that has brought the military into the forefront of security matters, internal security matters in Nigeria. The activities of Boko Haram insurgents, which has lasted more than a decade now, bandits, the one that is in vogue, unknown gunmen, robbers, kidnappers, and axiomatic of the defective internal security that we have now. So looking at gated neighborhoods, gated neighborhood has emerged out of the fear of insecurity. When people want to make choice of where they live, they look at how secured not only the facility they want to live in, how secured it is, they look at how secured is the environment, how secured is the neighborhood, how secured is the space which they in their choice of residence, in their choice of even offices. The recent unfolding events have also shown that people are now even more concerned about the security of where they worship and all that. So looking at the gap now, while private individuals continue to make efforts in ensuring the security of their personal lives, property, and estate, the Nigerian state is yet to make a meaningful sense of the undergoverned spaces, the expanse of undergoverned spaces, which is covered in highways, on public spaces, in public spaces like parks, like markets, like church, religious houses, and all that. Now, what the paper proposes is to take a leave from how private initiative has been able or is able to maintain a secured border where hitherto were even porous. I said gated neighborhood emerged out of two things: those that were existing communities, but they had to frame security around it, and those that emerged originally with gates and fences. So since porous border is a problem for Nigeria, it's of weapons, illicit movement, incursion of unregistered migrants. Via these porous borders. So this paper argues that Nigeria needs a robust security of its borders. However, the borders are even communities of individuals. However, these communities have cultural and historical affinities with communities on the other hand, that is in the other countries. So there must be not only a state-centric military or forceful approach, one that will encourage, one that will even make the individuals, those living within those communities at the poorest, know that they have a role to play in ensuring the security of, they know those that do the exchanges, they know those that move in illicitly, they know how this illicit movements on the borders, how this happened. So this paper also argue for the use of technology. There is no gainsaying that technology is very important for surveillance at the borders, and ensuring that there are, even in developed worlds, national borders are decimated by barbed wires, by trenches, and all that. Nigerian government needs to do something about this. So in conclusion, it is argued that the security challenges facing Nigeria will most likely persist if, not minding the various inputs that individuals are giving, like this gated neighborhood of initiative, private initiative. So it is still dependent on the security of the border, where the gap lies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So why don't we try to see if Bright Njoku, are you there? Maybe we can just see if the audio is is working, and if not, we can move to our last speaker. Mr. Bright Njoku? Okay, might also be trying to get a different device. So I see, here we go. Okay, so, well, why don't we, oh, he's there. Hello. Hello, sir. Okay, are you, let's see if we can hear you. Oh, he's still. If that's, okay. I think we can hear you. Yes.
Hello?
Yes, I can
hear
hear you.
me now?
Yes, we can hear you. And
Oh.
so you are welcome to present. So here we have Bright Joseph Njoku, a PhD student at the University of Lagos, who is presenting the paper From Problem to Solution, the role of Fadeyi Mushin and Oluju Elegba, area boys in Lagos, COVID-19 lockdown insecurity. So please welcome.
Thank you for this opportunity, Lou, and the other panelists. Like you just said, my paper is on area voice, the intersection between area voice, COVID-19 lockdown, and the reaction of the area boys to the security problem that engulfed the whole of Lagos during that period. My paper is it's a work in progress anyway, but the feedback I will get here will help in enhancing the quality. Across the world, gang violence is a major problem. Whether it's in Cali, from Cali to London, from Cape Town to Lagos, gang violence is a major issue. literature has confirmed this, and the problem has persisted, especially in third world, where problems of social issues, unemployment has created a bulk of youth will join this gang. In Lagos, gang issue has been a persistent problem. This is not new. The later part of the colonial period, from 1920s, we had gangs made up of youth, delinquent youth, that constituted problem for the municipal authorities in Lagos State. Boys like gangs like Boma boys, gangs like Jaguda boys, Alkali boys, and several others created a massive problem for authorities at that time. The problem created by SAP in the 1980s, social adjustment program in the 1980s, which enhanced socioeconomic inequality, intensified this problem. And the more youth, especially in Lagos, became delinquent and constituted nuisance to the administrative strength of the state. This problem became more compounded in 1999 when the military left and the politicians took over. We noticed that there was an entrenchment of area boyism in Lagos politics, a situation where area boys became a strategic partner and the strategic factor in some politicians' political base. So the problem of area boyism in Lagos has since then intensified. Can I share? Can I still share my slide?
You could try.
No, unfortunately. Okay. I'm trying to.
Alternatively, you could email the slides to me, or just carry on. Up to you.
Okay, let me do that. Let me do that quickly.
Okay. Luckily, we have one of the 5 speakers couldn't make it today, so we have a little more time per person.
Oh, that's pretty good. I'm so sorry for the delay, but let me quickly email to you.
Well, Leslie, just for those in the audience, I think feel free to drop anything in the question and answer session, even though the papers are still ongoing. We can always take a look, and then we'll collect them by the end of the panelists speaking portion. So feel free to begin dropping questions and answers, and we'll get to them at the end.
All right, it's sent. Maybe you check if it's.
Okay, so just continue, and then I'll start sharing once I get it.
Okay. During COVID-19, area boys, despite the negative attributes that has been there a lot during COVID-19, they played a very instrumental role in providing security in the certain Lagos neighborhood. Okay, let me just go on if it's not sending. In certain parts of Lagos, COVID-19 created a huge security problem, especially the lockdown, which hampered people's means of livelihood. People were not going to work. There was general lack, hunger, and all the associated problems. It also led to loss of jobs. Because of that, there was a problem of insecurity. This time around, the insecurity emanated from boys in neighboring communities, known as Awawa boys, 1 million boys, who are ultra violent, much more than area boys themselves. So they started attacking neighboring communities, like in my study area, Ojuelegba, Mushin, and Fadey. This created a huge security problem. So area boys, who are territorial in nature, responded because they were also suffering the problem of insecurity, problem of lack created by COVID-19. They also needed food, they needed money. Residents in this case came together, gathered money, and employed the area boys as their own security. There are several issues here. Lagos slums or poor neighborhood are hardly well policed. If anything, Lagos is under police generally. Lagos State Police Command has 33,000 men sheltered in 107 police stations. That is a figure that is very, very minimal compared to, if you follow the UN estimate, 21 million population, or if you follow the estimate by National Bureau of Statistics, 12.9 million people. So the security situation in Lagos was overwhelmed during the COVID period, not only because of the number of men, but because some of these men were also affected by COVID. So they were in isolation center. Some of them were used to police the restrictive order. While some of them, the few of them left, were not enough to carry on the regular issue of crime fighting. So area boys became very imperative for as a stopgap measure for this neighborhood. So let me, my study area is Mushin, Ojuelegba, and Fadey. These are very densely populated area in Lagos. The poor neighborhood. They are known to attract people of less, who are less less comfortable. People who are struggling, people who cannot afford the high-rise areas. So it is very densely populated. As a result, the area boysism culture has thrived in this area. However, during COVID period, boys from other neighborhoods invaded, who were also affected by COVID issue, invaded this neighborhood in search of food, in search of money, and all that. So I want to talk about my literature review. Literature on area boyism in Lagos, has have been extensively researched. Notable works like those of Heap, Imodi, Forchard, Osiki, Uye have addressed the problem of area boy. There's also a growing literature on public health and the impact of pandemic and the epidemic in Lagos. Major works include Oluwasegun, Brown, Faleye, Mogaji, and etc. However, there is a lacuna. Most of this work focus on the destructive, exploitative, extortionism, and the violence characteristic for which area boys is known. However, my study is arguing that beyond this violence part of area boys, they also have nuisance value. Beyond this characteristic which scholars have traditionally blown out of proportion, if you may, they also have certain future because they are territorial in nature. They are conscious of their areas and they will do everything to protect those areas. My paper is arguing that area boys are product of the society. And as such, it's beyond them that they turn out this way. So yeah, my research question, the following question have been formulated to guide my research. This question are, how did Fadeyi Mushin and Ojuelegba area boys deal with insecurity of the COVID-19 era? What role did the area boys play? And what are the lessons to be learned? My research used two theories. The first is a subcultural theory, and the second is a structural functional theory. Subcultural theory highlights the emergence of a deviant culture in the broader culture, which now adopts a distinctive norms and values different from the general prevailing societal norms. Area boy falls into this category. The norms, the culture, the behavioral pattern are clearly different from the general prevailing culture, broader culture in Nigeria. The second theory, structural functional theory, also known as functionalism, interprets, you use the human body, the human biological system to interpret society. The human biology is made up of different but interconnected parts. Without any part thereof, the human body will not function well. Applying this to my study and the society, area boy is a component part of our society, very important part of our society. If they are not conforming to the broader culture, then the society have problem, which means the political leadership or the stakeholder must ensure that area boys are brought back to sanity, are reorientated, and as they have shown during COVID-19, that they are capable of doing legitimate pursuits. The study is highlighting the fact that we all have to help the area boy in coming back to sanity. Research method, my paper use primary and secondary sources. Interviews were extensively conducted in the research area. People interviewed include area boys themselves, police officers, street hawkers, residents, traditional ruler, community development association chairman, and hawkers. Certain things were very instrumental for area boys in their intervention. They were used to street life. They were used to spying, like the security force, they have a special area that carry out spying. They are rugged and they were equal to the task of what the other boys were bringing from wherever they were coming from. And so this night and day surveillance helped in checkmating, whatever these guys were bringing. My paper is now urging the fact that this could be very instrumental to the wider security network in Lagos State and perhaps Nigeria. Findings, study findings. The large army of delinquent youths will continue to pose threat to the society. Politicians reinforces the culture of area boyism. Lagos is grossly
Okay, I think we have lost our speaker because of technology issues. But why don't we keep it moving, although we were just getting to the good, some of the good parts of the findings. So why don't we move on and then we can always come back. Okay, so our last, sorry, our last speaker is going to present a paper. I'm so sorry, I've lost my document somewhere. So last but not least, we have Nicole Wilson, who is a PhD candidate in political science at Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the US, and she'll be presenting a paper on the politics of urban expansion, evidence from Lagos.
Apologies, I suddenly went off.
Oh, okay.
Can I continue?
Yes, sure. Just if we could just wrap up in, yeah, last minute, quick thoughts, and then we'll move to our next panelist.
Despite a background of crime and violence, there are positives that can be derived from street gangs. If these gangs are reformed, as they have shown during COVID-19, they are capable of making incredible contribution to Lagos security system. Lagos is generally under police, and they also, I hinted the fact that the community policing is integral to overall security. Research challenges I face on the field, that of extortion by area boys. They can hardly give you any information without extorting. Sometimes they threaten to seize your valuables if you don't do the needful. And my conclusion, there is ability in the energy that area boys currently misapply. This energy can be used to further the cause of national development if correctly harnessed. So I recommend training and deployment as low-level security officers, skill acquisition and startup packages, investment in education, and compulsory primary and secondary education. Area boys are generally manipulated especially by the politicians. The politicians must disengage from using area boys as food setter for it. So I conclude with a thought from Chinua Achebe, who in his The Trouble with Nigeria, which applied to Lagos. He said there is trouble. The trouble with Nigeria is simply and squarely a failure of leadership and not any metaphysical, terrestrial, or other coinage of belief. So I submit that area boys are not problems themselves, but the society that produced them and the political structure that continue to foist them, like they did during corona pandemic. They can be positively used to further the development of the nation. Thank you. I'm so sorry for the struggle with my slides. I honestly do think I've been able to make my points. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad you were able to join us despite all the challenges and deliver a very clear paper, even without the visual aids. So thank you, and we will move to our last paper. Welcome.
Great, thank you. I'm going to share my screen. And thanks to all of the other presenters. I've been learning so much, especially about security, which is not something that's within my area. So thank you for letting me learn. I have lots of questions for everybody else. So I'm going to try to keep this pretty brief. But this project is also kind of early stage, like some of the others have shared, and it's kind of moved in a slightly different direction since I submitted my abstract. But essentially right now I'm working on a more qualitative portion of my dissertation work that is essentially more of a conceptualization exercise related to urbanization and privatization, particularly in the form of private, often gated estates. So I'm grateful that Latunde is on this panel as well, and I'm sure he has a lot to teach me about this as well. So my motivation for this project is just essentially the incredible rapid urbanization that's happening in Nigeria and across Africa and a lot of places around the world, and often kind of sprawling out into peri-urban areas, in addition to rising inequality in urban areas. And although there's been a lot of work, my perception, at least, of the literature that I've read is that there's been more work on informal settlements and slums in peri-urban areas and less on these increasingly privatized middle and upper class enclaves, essentially in the form of these estates built by private developers, often gated, kind of in the peri-urban areas. So I'm interested in just learning more about this particular residential form. And so I started to kind of like try to map out where these types of neighborhoods are. This is mostly using OpenStreetMap, which is kind of a crowdsourced source of data where people have kind of logged where there are entry gates to neighborhoods. And I've kind of used Google Maps to try to validate that a little bit, but it kind of, this is not comprehensive at all, but it does kind of give a picture of where a lot of these private estates are located. We can see a lot of them kind of going out the Lekki corridor, and also kind of on that upward axis as well. And I'm interested in the question, how does this privatization in this particular form shape people's political attitudes and behaviors? And in particular, what are the implications for the social contract between the government and citizens? And so kind of the typical way, I study political science, the typical way that this relationship is often thought of is that the state is providing services, and the citizens in turn, if they're satisfied with those services, they're paying taxes. Otherwise, they're kind of participating to hold the state accountable. And this might break down in kind of a lot of different ways, but even if we assumed that this was working perfectly, there's this question of what happens when here NSP stands for a non-state provider of any kind of service. It could be health, it could be schooling. In this case, in these private estates, it's often things like electricity or water, and often security is a big one. So again, I think this is a great panel for me to be on and learn more about. But it kind of is unclear what is the implication for this social contract when the state isn't the one providing as many services and people are relying on private providers. So moving into one of these private estates is often seen as kind of a way to exit from your relationship with the government. Kind of other work has found that in other contexts, those who choose private alternatives for service delivery, again, often in the case of things like healthcare or schooling, are sometimes less likely to participate politically or pay their taxes. And this is one of the dominant views. It's certainly not the only view, but it's widespread enough that it's something I'm interested in and challenging a little bit. And I'm kind of exploring the possibility and hoping to argue that residents of these gated private estates do still pay their taxes and are engaged with and care about politics, although they might have some distinct political preferences. And here, when I'm talking about taxes, I'm primarily interested in property taxes, which, as I'm sure you all know, takes the form of the land use charge in Lagos. And I shared that this portion of the project is kind of like this conceptualization exercise. I'm trying to come up with a typology of what this might look like in different neighborhoods. And so on the top axis here, we have kind of ways that, that different neighborhoods might respond to the attempt of the government to tax. One is they might cooperate. On the other, they might be kind of neutral, like no more or less likely to pay their taxes than somebody who's not living in a gated estate. And then on the right, we might expect to see kind of active resistance. On the other axis, I'm interested in looking at kind of the level of service substitution. So high service substitution might be an estate that provides guaranteed 24/7 electricity, has power, has waste collection, has security, of course, but it has like kind of a high level of private services. And then some, maybe there's a gate and there's security, but there's not necessarily much else provided by the estate. And right now I'm particularly kind of interested in this response to taxation. So I'm just going to talk about that right now. And I've started to explore this through interviews, primarily with facility managers of estates. And I just, to kind of introduce this typology, wanted to share an example of each. So on the one hand, in some cases, estate managers might actually cooperate with the state and participate in the process of collecting taxes. So I'm just going to read out this quote. "We actually help the Lagos state government in identifying each of the residents with the right names for the proper building and let them know whether it is tenanted or owner occupied, which, this distinction matters for how much you get charged. When they bring the bill, we help disseminate it and send reminders. If someone doesn't pay after being reminded, we threaten them that we will point the government to their house." So very much unlike kind of an exit from the state, in this case, people are more actively paying their taxes, perhaps because their facility manager is helping the government collect these taxes. In some other estates that I've talked to, the management kind of has nothing to do with taxes. They say they don't know if their residents pay, and they don't have anything to do with that. It's still this very individualized relationship between the citizen and the government. And then another person shared with me, this was not an estate that he managed, but in one that he lived in for 4 years. He said he never paid his land use charge because there was this active discussion among the residents that it was a ridiculous charge. And so they were kind of collectively resisting. And it was actually taken up by the developer to negotiate it to something more reasonable, to like negotiate a lesser rate. So I'm kind of, again, this is not kind of a causal explanation, or I'm not trying to make an argument about something causing something else, but I'm trying to show kind of the variety of different relationships with the government in terms of willingness to pay taxes and kind of level of compliance with taxation in this particular residential form of gated estates, and kind of challenge this idea that just because I've selected private service provision that I'm just like unwilling to pay taxes, and that I won't. And I've also done a preliminary survey just of Facebook users. So it's not representative, but this is Facebook users in Lagos State who are property owners. And I asked them, where their property was, and some of them were in a gated estate, some were not. And I do find that those who are in gated estates are more likely to have received a bill for the land use charge in 2021, and also conditional on having received a bill, they're more likely to have paid it in full. And these relationships also hold even when controlling for income level, because we might think that it might just be that people who are of a higher income level are more likely to live in gated estates and are also more likely to pay their taxes. But it doesn't seem to be the case that that's completely driving this relationship. So some preliminary evidence that kind of this, like what has been seen as opting out by choosing to live in a private estate might actually come along with greater engagement with the government in this particular way of paying your property taxes. So again, just kind of laying out some preliminary ideas. Would love to hear people's feedback on this, and thanks for listening. Here's also my email if anybody wants to follow up later.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for those presentations. So why don't we open it up to questions from the audience and also questions that you might have for each other. Does anyone want to start?
I can start with a question.
Sure.
For Latunde, I'm interested, you kind of talk about this distinction between gated neighborhoods that are like built, I think like by a developer, kind of more like what I was talking about, and neighbors who come together and put a gate on their street. And I'm wondering if you think there is any difference between those two in their ability to kind of handle security problems.
Thank you, Nicole. Basically, the distinction is just for understanding the evolution of gated neighborhoods. There are those that actually started originally with the plan of being gated with all these facilities of security, perimeter fence, and gates, with gatehouse and other facilities. Albeit the insecurity situation has made some other existing communities to also develop or adapt or try to bring up this kind of feature of a gated neighborhood into existing community by creating gates and blocking other loopholes, like looping roads within the community or outside the community. So they basically just create maybe a major entry and every other exit are blocked, while there are security personnel, where they have enough security personnel, they can mount periodically, mount sentry in those areas. And where the security personnel are not, those gates are closed completely. So that's it's just for the evolution. The classification is just majorly for it does not signify any strength or lack of in securing the lives and property of the people within the community. Thank you.
Also, hello, I have a question.
All right.
Hello? Yes, not for you.
All right.
You. It's for Mr. Bright, from problem to solution.
Okay, sir.
Now, I've heard about
Yes,
one of my senior colleagues wrote about bad boys always have their day or something like that. I don't know if you've heard if you have read about that paper by Dr. Lanio. Indeed, bad boy will always have one of their good days, but with the kind of a lifestyle we are known with this Father boys, Mushin, and Ujwedeba. Those are one of the most dreaded areas in you are. Can you now say because of just one good, you want to term them to be a good citizens and that we can get some good from them?
Thank you, Doctor, for your question. I live in one of those neighborhoods, so I know these boys in and out. Like I said in my presentation, they are bad, for a fact, they are very bad. But they are creation of the society. They were not born bad. The society made them bad. And from the examples we've seen here and there, for some of them who have been through political connection, who have been given access to become lawma, for instance, LASMA, for instance, some of them have turned good citizens, So, and from what they did during COVID-19, all you need to do, give them money, provide their needs, and they are even more reliable than the conventional security system. I can tell you this. It's a proven fact that I gathered during the period. All I'm saying is, if politicians should hands off and stop manipulating this boy. And let me tell you something. During the recently concluded presidential primaries of one of the political parties, one of the guys I was interviewing, who is the leader in one of these neighborhoods, I called him, and he told me he was in Abuja. Doing what? If an area boy could be an entourage of a politician to Abuja, he will stop at nothing to destroy, for him. So if the society could treat these guys, for instance, Niger Delta militants today, some of them are good citizens. They've dropped their arms and they are contributing to national economy. So these guys are bad, which is a fact, but they can be reformed. They can be reformed. And they lure back to sanity. Yeah.
From your presentation, really, I enjoyed the presentation. I know they can be loyal to their locality. They are loyal to their locality. I've lived in Lagos before.
Hello,
as long as you.
Hello.
Yes, you've answered my question. I'm trying to establish a fact also that indeed these guys are loyal to their locality. Did you get that?
Okay.
I said they are loyal to their locality, to their location. In most cases,
locality, yes.
they don't want any harm within their location. And even if they traced any issue within their location, they can fish out whoever amongst them that have committed that a crime within their location. So in most cases, when they themselves understand that they cannot do otherwise within their location, some criminals contract them, just as you said, that they will always guide against infiltration from outside into their location.
Very correct.
But then some of these politicians that you are said, because they've been tagged area boys and all the likes, they don't operate within their location because they know they will blow their cover. So they like going outside to strike. What do you see to that within the scope of your study? They don't. I know they don't strike at home, but because of the fact that they've been tagged area boys, guys from outside comes to recruit them to do some other dirty jobs outside. I don't know if you have looked at that area.
And I also I just wanted to actually add in a question from the chat that I think, could be related to the answer or this discussion in terms of, Shalayan Dele asks, what's the distinction between area boys and the cultists they fought during the lockdown? And so I think that could link actually to multiple presentations or papers, and thinking about this distinction between area boys and these other kinds of forces that all of you are talking about. But just to add on to that, the question that was just posed. Distinction between area boys and others, or area boys as they move out to other areas, right?
Okay, thank you for the questions. Over time, we have bounded this the name area boys, bringing all different groups, different gangs into the same umbrella. They are different. There are gangs. There are cultists. there are NURTW, popularly known as Agbero, and there are area boys. However, there is a very thin line between
there
them.
are street boys too. Street boys. Street boys too.
Yes, very correct. In most cases, they have overlapping membership. They belong to this. Some boys belong to all this group. The problem is, if you want protection, if you want to be feared in the neighborhood, then you must join the court. If you need daily money, you must belong to Agbero. Then if you want to be very strong in your neighborhood, respected, you are an area boy. So all of these things work hand in hand. You know, they complement themselves. Some, you know, most of them belong to the three categories, and you know, they go for whichever pays them better. Doctor, getting back to your questions, you talked about the fact that these guys are recruited to do damage and all that. Yeah, they are very territorial. They hardly operate or do bad things in their neighborhood, except extortion, you know, a vehicle break, it could do it for seas and all that, but they hardly do bad things in their neighborhood, like you said. But I still think that if we can't reform these guys, then none of them will go out to do anything. If we can reform these guys and establish them, they will, you know. We also need to solve the problem at the root, the factors at the root of the area boys. Loose guardianship, for instance, poor parentage, for instance. Out of schools, as developed as Lagos is, it has one of the highest out of school children in Nigeria. So we have to look at these factors, and I can assure you, area boys will be brought back to sanity. I've lived in this neighborhood for 10 years. I've seen classical examples of area boys turning good life, you know, going into legitimate businesses and doing very fine because they've seen somebody who sponsored them, they've seen somebody who established them. And some of them, when they make money from politicians, they will opt out and establish. Some of them are even traveling abroad. So the fact is, they need something that will guarantee them good life. Then they will hands off crime. Very, very, you know, very simple. They will hands off crime.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? I kind of have a quick question. I think something that really struck me across these different papers was how in some ways insufficient the terms private and public can be, or how, you know, it's really more of a spectrum, not just in Nigeria, but across the world, right? When people say this is private run space, that could mean so many different things, right? And as all you're saying, there's different entities. So I just had a quick question for our first panelist, Mr. Olusegun Idowu, about the Amotekun and just who populates that force. Are these people who were former state security officers, former policemen, or are they more people who were working in security in the communities to begin with? And are those people from the places that they're policing? So I was just curious about the composition of the Amotekun forces. And then we see another question in the chat, also from Shola Ayendele, to Nicole about a relationship between levels of self-provisions of service and tax payment. So those two.
Yes, you talked about the composition of Amotekun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it cuts across all sectors. We have some set of persons called the Legion, retired military officers, they call them the Legion. Some of them are part of the Legion. We have local hunters, just because they are trying to ground the security within the location. So we have the composition encompass local hunters, the legionnaires, retired police officers, and some able bodies within the locality. So just as Bright said, it's embedded in their location. They normally, if they are recruiting, take for instance 100 per local government. maybe they want, take for instance, in the state, we have like 16 local governments. If they want 1,600, if they want to recruit 1,600, they recruit basically from the localities, and the composition encompass local hunters, the brave ones. In fact, to the extent that they go beyond all of that to look at some of those guys that are feltish, those ones that can how do I put, I think that's the best way to put it. The feltish, those the traditionalists, some set of these are because the issue of security has now gone wide to the extent that within the locality, we know we're always afraid of whoever that is feltish, whoever that can I don't want to call them magicians, the traditionalists. So it encompasses people, a wide range of people within the locality. But then you have the legionnaires, retired police officers, retired military officers. Where you have local hunters that knows the terrain very well, and those traditionalists.
Thank you.
Sorry, please. I would want to comment a bit on that. Professor Ido, you used a word, fetish. I think there's a growing, there is a growing work, there is a growing body of work on spiritual intelligence now.
Spiritual intelligence.
Yes. So I would have appreciated that. I would appreciate if you can adopt that. Those that are skilled in spiritual intelligence with the whole of,
you see, I've been trying to find the word so that Vivian will understand what I'm trying to say. But I know you know better.
I get you also.
Of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Latunde.
And I can jump in on Shola's question. And yeah, I think it's an excellent question. I don't have a good answer for you right now, but I think you raise this really important distinction and also question about what is the alternative. Like if I wasn't living in a gated estate, would I actually be relying on the government, or would I just be doing things for myself as an individual? So I think that's a useful distinction for me to explore in the future. Say I'm not relying on the government in either case, but in one case, I'm living in an estate where kind of everything's taken care by one person, one manager, versus I'm an individual. I'm digging my own well, having to buy my own generator versus having it provided by the estate. Are those different experiences of kind of not relying on the government? And if so, how are they different in terms of willingness to pay taxes? I think that's a really excellent question.
Okay, so we are at exactly our time. So thank you so much for this wonderful panel and the audience members for the questions. I really wish we were in person so we could actually, have small conversations afterwards. But I do have to end the session here, as the conference organizers have told me. So let's have a round of applause for everybody. And hopefully we can all be in touch. And, in terms of panelists, you'll have each other's emails, and audience members, I'm sure you can also follow up with any of our wonderful speakers. So thank you again, and hopefully see you soon.
Yeah, thank you everyone for
being, thank you very much.
Great night.
Mr. Latunde, well, I'll be sending messages to everyone. Thank you.
Oh, I have